Joining us now, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, is with us. Mr. Speaker, how are you? Glad you could join us from Vegas today.
Well, listen, I'm delighted to join you, and I think this whole story in Puerto Rico is a perfect example of what's wrong with the system. Here's a mayor who is elected by local folks who's supposed to be in charge of solving a local problem, and she is instead, as you point out, not going to the meetings, not involved in the help, and grandstanding, I think, because she wants to run for governor.
She does want to run for governor. Geraldo told me. Yeah.
So I think it's a situation which ended up, frankly, making her look bad. And as often happens when you're dealing, with Trump, it turns out in the long run, he was right and she was wrong.
All the supplies were there. I can't believe she's standing in front of pallets of supplies that we sent and yelling at the president instead of giving the food, the water, the medicine, the supplies to the people. It's pretty spectacular.
Of course, part of the problem, of course, is that people are hurting and people are scared. And I saw the president talk to one guy today who still has no electricity, and that's in a pretty urban area. I mean, it's much worse in rural Puerto Rico. And so being a local politician, she could say, oh, I could take the blame or I could blame somebody else. And so instead of trying to help solve the problem, she tried to dump the blame on the president.
One of the things I think...
But by the way, this is the third, you had Texas, Louisiana, then you had Florida, now you have Puerto Rico. And I think overall that the system has worked surprisingly well considering how much strain is under.
Yeah.
It's an enormously difficult problem.
Well, what's amazing is because they had everything pre-positioned, which the same tactics, the same strategies that they use for Texas and Florida, they use for Puerto Rico. And what they did is they had Navy ships literally that were positioned with food, water, medicine, supplies, everything they knew that they were going to need in a safe area. And as soon as the hurricane passes, remember, this was a Cat 5. This was a disastrous hurricane. Then those supplies were instantaneously brought in. You've got Lieutenant General Jeffrey Buchanan, U.S. Army North Commander, and Colonel Jim Marin, 165th Airlift Wing Commander. As of Wednesday of last week, they had 5,000 troops on the ground. And when they weren't able to get through, some of the roads were impassable, they started airlifting to the areas that most needed the help.
Yeah, and I think this will continue. I have a paper which I've been sharing at the White House, and which I'm going to post tomorrow on foxnews.com, and it'll be my newsletter at Gingrich Productions. And it basically talks about how do we, once we get past this first phase of recovery, how do we start setting the stage for really helping create a 21st century Puerto Rico that can be truly prosperous and not just going back and fixing old, obsolete infrastructure, which was frankly crumbling before the hurricane, but instead taking this as an opportunity to really bring a dramatically better future to the people of Puerto Rico. And I think we have the potential to do that, and we have the potential to leave them with both a dramatically improved economy and a dramatically improved infrastructure.
One of the things that I was actually very impressed with, considering you're right, I mean, all the infrastructure was knocked out. The electrical grid was knocked out. Everything that people needed, the island, the vital infrastructure, the power grid, the water, the cell phone. Already they've been able to get more than half the residents now have running water. That's going to be about 60-70% by the end of this week. The governor said that nearly 50% of people now have the cell phone service back. It's going to obviously take a while for the electric grid to get back on track. But, I watched the reception the president got today, and it was unbelievable. Everywhere he went, people were so thankful for what he had done. And clearly they recognized that there was a disparity between the words of a politician and what the president had actually accomplished.
Well, I think if you have your entire island totally devastated, and you see help coming in, you are so grateful because you know that the alternative was, potentially your family having no water, having no food. The people really were right at the edge of desperation. And I might point out, by the way, as we watch the impact of having no electricity, my good friend who Bill Fortune, wrote a book a few years back called 1 Second After, which really describes life in a North Carolina town after an electromagnetic pulse attack takes out the electricity system. And we tend to forget how really dependent we are on electricity and how much that is part of what defines civilization in the modern world. And I think there's a warning here for the whole country that we should be hardening our electricity capabilities, because we both have the danger of a man-made electromagnetic pulse attack like North Korea, and we have the danger of a natural solar attack, such as happened in 1859.
Let me, before I get to everything that has happened, I agree totally with you, and I think that is part of your defense course that I highly urge people to go to the link and listen to you as you go into your professor mode. I want to play for you Jennifer Gonzalez Colon. Now, she and every other mayor and the governor were praising the president. I just want to play her comments and some of the applause for the president as well. Listen to this.
The first thing is that before we were hit by Maria, we were hit by Hurricane Irma. And during that time, before the hurricane, it was FEMA acting together with a lot of employees. More than 4,000 people were here in the island from the different branches of the military, HHS, Navy, Army, FEMA, and all the staff working together before the hurricane hit. They were here before, during, after the first hurricane, and they continued to stay on the island, boots on the ground, during Maria. Same thing. I think we never got the level of communication between the federal government and the local government like never before. And we are in the path of the hurricanes. So we are used to receiving hurricanes, but never before a Category 5. The amount of devastation, it's unheard of. But during all this time, we got the federal government by our side, doing the job, with the people here, like you in the military, doing all that is being asked, all the questions and requests that the governor did. The president and his cabinet accomplished it and send more people, and it's continued to send in more people, trucks, drivers, and resources. Thank you, Mr. President, for all you've been doing for the island.
That's pretty amazing. All right, I want to, I'm in Vegas today, Mr. Speaker, and look, we've seen a lot of tragedy shootings under many presidents, and there is evil in our time, and we all go through it. You know, I could give out the history of all of this, but I can tell you everybody in Hollywood and everybody in the news media and everybody in Democratic politics, what do you make of this initial impulse? They're not thinking about, oh my gosh, we have to help our fellow Americans. The impulse is to politicize the tragedy. The impulse is to attack the president. The impulse is to blame conservatives that believe in the Second Amendment for what happened here.
Well, I mean, look, first of all, part of that's just standard. There is a part of the reason I developed the course on Defending America, which people can see at defendingamericacourse.com, is because you have this unending assault on the Second Amendment by people who don't understand why it's there and don't understand its purpose. But it was written there by the founding fathers to literally preserve our political freedom. These are people who had seen that if the farmers at Lexington and Concord had not had the right to bear arms, we would have still been a colony of Great Britain. And so they didn't just write that in for hunting or for skeet shooting. They wrote that in as a political statement that that a free people have to have the right to defend themselves. Now, I have to tell you, Sean, I think this event is so horrendous. I mean, it resembles although one man was responsible, but it resembles the attack in Paris on the nightclub and where all the people were shot. I mean, I can't quite get my head around this many dead and this many wounded, and the viciousness and the deliberation of somebody who clearly had premeditated renting those rooms, looking for apparently a country and Western event. I mean, the whole thing is so bizarre that I've been biting my tongue because I know that I don't understand it yet. And I know that there's something here, as the president said, there was total evil, but there's something here that just doesn't fit. You know, when you live in a rational world, you know. I agree. And I want to know more about this guy and why he did what he did.
All right, Mr. Speaker, we always love having you, and your defense course is up on my website, Hannity.com. Right. We expect a little bit of a presser coming up here. We'll be dipping in and out, perhaps. And Newt Gingrich has been amazing in his analysis, pretty much on everything we've been talking about lately. We need to get this information out.